Hello, this is Rob Best from The Property Man, and I'm delighted to be here today with Darren Eden. Darren, welcome.
Hi, Rob. Thank you.
Nice to see you, man.
Great to see you.
We started working together about a year ago, isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
And just to let you know, I met Darren through some friends of mine in Australia. As you'll find out in a moment, Darren's Australian. You can pick it up slightly in his voice. And they've been working with him, the friends of mine have been working with him for about 3 years now. And what Darren teaches, and what I'd like to expose you to a little bit today, is an orientation. It's a way of orientating yourself in life, really. And it's an incredibly simple idea, effectively, that's at the heart of it. But the results are extraordinary and really tangible. And actually, in some cases, quite miraculous. And having said that, having used that word, it's not what you do. It's not a religion, and it's not really a philosophy. It's not a cult. It's got none of those sort of connotations. It is just simply a way of living, a way of being, an orientation. And what I'd like to do today is just have a chat with you, really, Darren, about what it is that you do, and then perhaps specifically how it can help us as property investors, or if it can help us as property investors, because in this climate we need all the help we can get. So welcome again. Thank you very much for spending the time and taking the time. So I just wonder if you could just tell me something about the overview, if you like, the outline of what it is that you teach.
I think, to put it in a nutshell, the thing that I do is empower people in their innate intuitive ability and to live and to make decisions using your intuition.
Okay.
And in a phrase, what I teach people to do is to be masters of intuitive foresight as opposed to being masters of intuitive hindsight.
I like it.
I mean, everyone can relate to that, can't they?
Absolutely, yeah.
And quite simply, I work with the premise that every single one of us is intuitive, that we are inherently intuitive beings, but the volume setting on our intuition is set quite low.
Yes.
Compared to our thoughts and feelings. And which is, the volume setting's much higher. And so we tend to listen more to our thoughts and feelings than we do our intuition. And so the way the premise goes is that our intuition comes from our inherent greatness, whereas our thoughts and feelings are actually fabricated. They're actually manufactured from beliefs that we formed in childhood.
So that's what some people call conditioning.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's all conditioning. So, in effect, the thoughts and feelings which we're paying attention to 99.9% of the time, okay, as opposed to following the occasional intuitive hunch that might happen, particularly with, making major strategic decisions where there's a lot at stake, like in investing, for instance.
Yes.
We tend to listen more to our thoughts and feelings than we do to our intuition. But
Right.
funnily enough, there's been a lot of research shown recently that the people who are very successful investors and very successful entrepreneurs rely on their intuition to make their decisions. They may do a lot of research, but ultimately they use their intuition to make their decisions.
Which is interesting. Yeah.
One of the main secrets to their success.
Right. Yeah. From a consultancy point of view, I remember learning a few years ago that most decisions in business are made emotionally. So when you talk about sort of successful people, for example, who?
Well, I know for a fact that Richard Bransons makes all these decisions intuitively.
And he's done all right.
Yeah. Yes, he has.
And
I know Walt Disney was the same too. I know they kind of operate on similar level where they might have, someone might present an idea to them, to the board or whatever, and both of them have been known to weigh up the pros and cons and take in everything, all the material, all the expertise that's available, and then ultimately they'll make their own decision based on their own intuition. And another way I put phrase intuition is a ring of truth. They go with what rings true for them, which is all intuition fundamentally is. Whereas your thoughts and feelings and your conditioning is all about predominantly having to be right and wanting to be right and not being wrong. Obviously when you're making a major decision, like a major investment decision, you don't want to be wrong because it could have major consequences.
That's true, yes.
So, whereas when you're using your intuition and you're just going for the ring of truth, which isn't just a gut feeling, by the way. A lot of people think intuition is a gut feeling,
Right.
whereas the ring of truth resonates through your whole body. And it's a combination of just sheer knowingness and experience. They blend together, they harmonise.
Right.
It's never really in isolation.
Right. So the experience being, in investing terms or in business terms, the experience of 20 years of doing this or
absolutely.
whatever, but then you've also got another layer, if you like, of training to be able to hear that ring of truth when it happens.
Absolutely.
Right,
And to listen to
right.
that ring of truth over and above the thoughts and feelings which come from the conditioning, which can be driven by fears, for instance.
And presumably even when the ring of truth doesn't sound particularly logical,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point.
or perhaps especially when...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the main thing to point out when it comes to making decisions intuitively is to understand that your inherent greatness, which operates with your intuition, versus your conditioning and your thoughts and feelings and your beliefs, each of them operate according to two completely different motivations. And I think this is a really important point when it comes to investing.
Okay.
Because when you're using your intuition, you're completely motivated by what you love. And your ability to put your focus in the end result of what you love. And be informed by your intuition as to whether, what decision to make, or whether to close a deal or not be manipulated or coerced or whatever. But to be more specific, if you're a property investor, you're motivated by the end result of loving property. It's a direct thing. It's not a means to an end. It's the end. And whenever I think of that, I think of Robert Kiyosaki, for instance, which many people in the property game, the investment game, know. I had the advantage of working very closely with him in the late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, is that right?
In
He's a
Sydney.
hugely respected figure.
Absolutely.
Hugely respected.
Yeah, I had the great fortune of working very closely with him before he wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay,
And he had this thing of saying, when you are investing, invest in what you love. Like he used to say, don't invest in property if you don't love property. He said, I love properties.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. He said, I love walking around properties, and I love water heaters and the boilers. I love getting under the house. It's like it immerses, it consumes him. And so when that's your motivation, that's what's going to fire your intuition.